This is MFG Out Loud. Courageous conversations about sales and marketing for today's manufacturers. With your hosts, Ray Zaganto and Allison DeFore.
Hey, Trailblazers. Welcome to another episode of MFG Out Loud. If you spend any time on social media, and I'm guessing that you do, you may have come across a few TikToks from today's guest, Felix Bazgan from Cambro Manufacturing. I want you to keep in mind, like most of you listening, this is a B2B manufacturing brand. And as they say in science, the numbers don't lie. So Cambro has 19.5 thousand Twitter followers, almost 8,200 on LinkedIn, 33,500 on Instagram. So close. Yeah. And I'm not even mentioning Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, et cetera. So immediately, based on conversations that Ray and I have had with many of you, you're thinking immediately, I don't know if this episode is for me, right? TikTok isn't for us. We're not wasting time with that. We're B2B, and that's silly. That's for kids. You're probably also thinking this Felix guy is super outgoing and edgy, and this is easy for him. And that's not me. And that's not our brand. And we don't have time to mess around with this. And I think what you'll learn today will surprise you, because it surprised me when I had a conversation with Felix. I have been following him for quite a while. He happens to be, in my opinion, a courageous introvert, willing to try new things and put himself out there. And he saw an opportunity for Cambro to interact not with everybody in their audience, but directly with their end user in a unique and relevant way. And he adapted at the speed of culture. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Felix, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Allison. Thank you, Ray. Good to be with you guys. Just a little bit about me and Cambro. Cambro's this is our 70th year in business. It started in 1951. A little bit before my time. I haven't been here that long. I've been here. It's actually 12 years in April. So, wow. This April. So, I've been here 12 years. Company manufactures food service products. So basically, we're a manufacturer. We have two factories here in Huntington Beach. We have one in North Carolina. We have a couple in Europe, in Germany, in Turkey, and Bulgaria. We have a factory in China for our markets and the customers that we support there. We have a joint venture in India. So we pretty much cover a good part of the world. So basically, for manufacturer people who haven't really worked in food service or restaurants, they probably wouldn't really see our name for the most part unless you work back of house. But if you ever bump into anybody who's worked there, just ask about Cambro and they'll bring a product out there for you. So our audiences are pretty much anywhere there's food served outside the home. Schools, hotels, hospitals, the pizza chain down the street, all the way up to McDonald's. So that's all about the company. Like I said, I've been here 12 years and I've worked for some pretty conservative companies, for banks, for large HMOs. So, when people say, you're kind of quote unquote out there, maybe I am a little bit, but again, it's all relative. So anyway, that's what I'm good. So as far as what I do, I'm the director of digital marketing. Basically what I interpret that as is anywhere anybody interacts with our brand, with Cambro, through a screen, is I pretty much have some kind of a fingerprint on that interaction with some kind of either strategy or, as you've seen, some pretty hands-on production. So
yes,
I'm writing more questions as you.
Okay.
What I find is fascinating is as I remember the first time when I first got introduced to TikTok, just however it happens, and I'm out there, farting around with it, and you see the usual, entertainment animal type stuff, and I'm like, I see this manufacturer. I remember saying, it's like, Allison, have you seen these guys? And that was kind of started our journey there. And then I worked my way backwards and I saw the global manufacturing, 14,000 products, 70 years old. You've got so many elements that if you use traditional thinking, you'd never take a look at TikTok, but you did.
Yeah.
What helped you? What was it about that medium and that intersection with Cambro that you said, you know what, this is a fit? What lit that up for you?
I don't know. I can't say there was something, kind of like a turning point or some big, flip the switch thing. But my mind always goes to whenever I see new tools, and the great thing about marketing is there's always something, whether it's every day or every month or every year, and whether it's like, I remember when Facebook came about, I was like, wow, that was interesting. There's no such thing as that. That was obviously that revolutionized a lot of things. Nowadays, people are like, oh, Facebook, it's old, it's this, it's this. But that was like 12 years ago. Really for us to really get into it. So it's really not that long ago. So I like to at least take a look at tools and see, again, what value they provide for us, or what they can do for us. And the one thing I saw with this thing was, well, it's, a big thing for us is to entertain and educate at the same time, right? And obviously you have long form content with blogs and things like that. And then you have quick things that you want to communicate across. And this was definitely a way to create content that's in a very catchy way. And we also leverage the content and the product that we produce, on TikTok and the other channels we use, so whether it's Instagram, Reels, things like that, we cross-purpose a lot of things. So in a sense was, and we tried it out. And I kind of went in there with like no expectations, obviously. And that's the way you do things when you test things out, right?
Sure.
So see what works, see how you're doing it. And obviously, and we have a lot of existing connections. For example, like the barbecue community is a big thing for us for a certain type of segments. And so they're big on Instagram. And there's a huge community on TikTok as well. And again, they do certain things. And a lot of times the repetition is a big thing on TikTok. We try not to do that. We do quite different things a lot. So, but again, it's just a way to kind of, and it forces you to hone in on a certain type of thing, on a certain message. And what I mean by that is, if you look at our content that we put out there, it's really no different than any other content we put out. It's just packaged a little bit differently, right? Yeah. It's 6 or 8 seconds of something, but I would say for 90% of it, there's still an underlying educational or interesting tidbit about a product or service that we offer. It's not just, oh, look, we're a bunch of goofy people dancing around, So in a sense, it's still, while a product, here's features and benefits of a product, and it's like, here's a spec sheet, here's whatever, blah, 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 blah. Or I can make an interesting way to make that feature really catch your attention for at least a few seconds, at least make you think about it a little bit, rather when you wouldn't have anyway. If you're spending your time in these channels anyway, I don't know about you guys. I don't want to tell you what my screen time is. That's the worst thing Apple ever invented. I despise seeing that notification. But again, that's what people are doing nowadays. I don't know how much TV you watch. It's barely, if I'm watching it, it's usually like, I got my phone up first and then whatever's catching my eye there, So again, this is where people are in these platforms and social. Everyone's interacting. And you just have to put content out there. So, and the great thing for us is we do have, like you mentioned, Allison, all these other channels. We have great following that we can share this stuff in there too. So
it sounds like this wasn't so much hey, you had to go convince somebody this is somewhere you want to go. It looks like it's part of Cambro's kind of DNA to want to educate and engage. This just happens to be a new channel.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't you try it?
Exactly. And I'll admit, I've never been one to kind of, put forth a big PowerPoint to convince people. I'll usually just quote unquote on the side, just try things. Like, for example, I think I had the Cambro blog up for like a year and a half before anybody here internally knew anything about it. So, it's that kind of, because you just have to try stuff. You just have to do it. And then if it works, fine. If not, then nobody has to know about it, or, so. Again, so and really the great thing about a lot of these tools, it's besides the creative work and some of the think a little bit of time, doesn't have to cost much money. That's for sure.
Well, it's always better to ask for forgiveness, right?
Exactly.
As long as it works out.
Right.
I wanted to point out your blog. I'm glad you brought it up because I feel like I've met so few manufacturers like you who started their blog before it became cool to do so. And would you share with our listeners, like, I know why you started it. It was, what have the benefits been?
Well, basically okay, so, you can't buy anything obviously directly from us. So you go to our website, you get a lot of product information. Like you said, 14,000 products. So go to all the different pages. It's, typical product information, what it's made of, what to do, what's this, blah, 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 blah. Great. But we didn't have a place to showcase what the product actually does for the customer, right? Really, at the end of the day, it's your website's bragging about you. It's not about the customer, which is you're missing out, especially as a manufacturer. We want to showcase our products, but through the lens of helping people succeed. So that's first and foremost. And secondly, provide information just ongoing about us anyway. So beyond static kind of web pages. So really allowed us to really do, and really makes you feel a little bit of, if you're an expert or if you have experience in your field, that's really the best way to kind of showcase your, thought leader in a sense. You know some things about the trends going on in a certain field. Like I mentioned, we have a lot of verticals we sell into and we work with. So again, that's really a great way to talk about specifically whether you're talking about schools, or you're talking about catering, or you're talking about hospitality, so hotels and resorts, things like that. A lot of different things. Again, with specific case studies or features and things like that. So that's been a great benefit to us. Yeah.
What would you say to manufacturers who are hearing what you're saying right now, and their response would be, that's all really great. It sounds great. We just don't have the time.
Yeah, that's an excuse.
Don't you think you find the time and then it ends up becoming part of what you're doing?
Like I said, it's, everybody has to figure out, what their long-term goals, what their intent is. And I think nowadays it's, even, and again, it seems so long ago if you think about it, like when I mentioned I've been here 12 years and the first couple of years when we started rolling all this stuff out, and it feels like forever, all this, we talk about all these new trends, all these new channels, and they've really all sprung up in just a handful of years, and granted, somebody much younger than me, it seems like it's been around forever, but I remember before there was email. So, it's that kind of scenario. But again, I almost ask them, it's like, would you be able to do your business without an email nowadays? Like how are people find you have to have a digital like a massive digital footprint, right? You have to, especially if you want to actually compete in an industry, you have to showcase yourself as the leader. And basically part of that is just somebody looking you up, whether it's your personal LinkedIn profile, anything else you're doing, you have to kind of show up and be there in these channels. And yeah, you don't have the time, but do you have the time to put out, 500-page catalog every few months? Are people flipping through that? Again, think of the things that you're doing now. It's sometimes you have to rebalance your marketing or your communication strategy a little bit.
Plus, I like how the blog, when you go through kind of the past episode
Posts, yeah.
Posts. Sorry.
Podcast brain.
Yeah, exactly. When you there's a really nice balance between the, hey, here's this maybe new product, or we want to feature this thing, but you really do purposefully bring the customers and the users. They're the hero, So to manufacturers, whether it's food service equipment or aerospace stuff, at the core of it, you're solving problems for a customer. I love what you said earlier. Your website can't just be, about just be bragging about you. Here's your opportunity to brag about your customer, but kind of along the way, here's what we help them, be able to do. And I just think that's such a cool, thoughtful approach.
Yeah, and we have a thing that it's very simple. We put out there. It's like we have a thing called Cambro Business of the Week, and we just basically ask 5 questions, and it's usually like a really small business, small restaurant, whatever, from across the country. And they just answer 5 questions that people may want to know about. It's like, how'd you get started? What kept you interested in the food service industry? what's a challenge you've overcome, and what do you really, what's a great story that you want to share with people. It's just a quick few questions, and people love to talk about their business. And again, we just give them that platform, so.
Yeah. Which kind of is interesting. Is it's a good segue, because as you go through, I know on your website you got that cool company video, which is actually one of the better company videos that I've seen, because I love the history. The story is fascinating and hilarious at the same time.
Right.
Do you know how to make this? Of course not.
Yeah,
Sell it.
That's how the brothers started. Yeah.
God, that was awesome. But how the company has continued to evolve and progress, and still remain true to its very basic kind of core roots.
Yeah.
Which is very much around the kind of, you're out there, you're leading your way, and that way still works in a very dynamic environment.
Yeah. I think so I don't know if I mentioned, so the company is still family owned. It's second generation family owned. It started by two brothers, Campbell brothers, so Cambro. Figure that out. That was easy enough. But yeah, it's second generation, still family owned. And I think a big part of that, we have a saying around here, phrase called the Camely. It's we think we're one giant family. And I think a lot of people in that we interact with all the time think that we're a massive company. There's so many people, and really there's not that many people. We have a good amount of people making products and machines and all that kind of stuff, obviously, as you can imagine. But we're not. There's not a massive department full of people. Trust me. And again, I think that's part of why we're able to. I won't say risk taking, because again, I think pretty much most manufacturers are very risk averse. As you can imagine. But again, I think if you can't rely on what your brand was 20 years ago, 30 years ago to carry into the future, because the reality is nobody really cares about your brand. I mean, you care about it, obviously, but they care about doing. They need somebody. Your customer needs something done today, this year, this month, right? So what are you going to do from now? You may have done something for them a year ago. Great. They need something now. So you always have to constantly communicate with them, keep up to date with them. And again, these new channels are great to, at the very least, you should be aware of them before you pretty much kind of critique a lot of stuff. So,
yeah, I think it's one of the things I picked up on. I don't know if it's one of your catch lines. Well, two things. The Camely interviews, if you watch those on YouTube, they're hilarious. And everybody's like 20 some years there. So you're still the new kid, right?
Yeah, it's, I want to say the average tenure here is close to 30 years. We've had people here who their sons or daughters actually work here now as well. It's crazy. Yeah, it's really something. Yeah.
which goes to my next point. One of the taglines is trusted for generations, which I thought was interesting, because it's not trust us because we're old. It does very much go back to the Campbell brothers and their founding. They earned that trust, and the business continues to earn it over time. And that's the thing. Yeah. That's the special sauce. It's not that you're 70 years. That's a phenomenal accomplishment, but it's like you're 70 years young. You're just getting warmed up.
And that's exactly it. I mean, if you look at the history, basing the last 20 plus years, we really ramped up our international, obviously, marketplace, the ability with the addition of all these other locations to really supply and service, like I mentioned, these Fortune 500 companies, all these major food service companies, all over the world, has been a great bonus to us. And I think we're really focused on, I don't know if I really mentioned this, on food service. And I think that's part of the reason why we're able to really dial into and really make sure we focus on those features that speak to in general, that core audience, even though we have all these different verticals.
Sure.
I have a quick question. I talked to a lot of manufacturers who seem to take a really long time to ramp up, let's say, a website redesign. They might spend a year deciding, and then they spend a year redesigning. Same with adopting, social media, or ramping up a blog, or deciding whether to do TikTok. So I always ask 2-part questions. So one, how do you feel, or what advice would you give to manufacturers who are, let's say, in this conundrum of taking a really long time to ramp up? And two, do you agree with the saying of start before you're ready?
I'm not sure about, I think, I don't know if there's ever such a time as ready, be honest with you. But I'll tell you what I tell people. For example, a big thing we always try to, we have, sales reps throughout the country and throughout the world. So one thing, LinkedIn and things like that, it's something that we've been pushing quite a bit, right? So one thing in all the conversations I have with them, I said, you just start with something. I said, same thing, everything we've done, all the time. Look back on Instagram or the blogs we did initially. And again, it's all there for everybody to look at, TikTok, you name it. And I tell everybody, it's like, you're going to suck for a long time. It's going to be horrible and terrible. One things I do, like literally hands-on, is all the video editing and things like that for us here. And I look back, 3, 4, 5, 6 years ago, and they're god awful. They just are, because the reality is you don't get better just on, I could practice all day long, or I could think about it, and I could write it down on paper, but you're just doing it, it's like riding a bike. It's like, you're going to suck for like a couple of months. And then before you know it, you're not going to think about it. Same thing with, like, everybody remembers when they learn to drive. It's like, you're terrified, for it's like, there's like 1,000 things you have to think about. Now it's like, most people are half asleep driving to work, so it's
or driving.
It's like, if people understand that you're going to be terrible at it to just start, it's not going to look good. You're not going to like it, but you have to just do it.
It's okay.
You're not, and this is what I tell people: you're going to start now, or you're going to start in a month. Sooner or later, you're still going to start, unless you totally don't want to. But you're not going to get over this uncomfortable feeling, or how good it is, or how good it's not going to be usually, until you just start doing it. Because next time around, it'll be a little bit better, or it'll be a little bit better, so on and so forth. And even the stuff we do, I don't think any of it's really any good, compared to, objectively. I think it's, well, I think it could always be better,
Sure.
But again, I don't judge it so harshly where I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
Was it hard for you to get, and again, I'm glad you just brought this up, I see this a lot as well. Was it hard for you, or is it still hard for you, to get employees to participate and be active in your social media channels and on their own for the company?
Well, I'll speak for the small team we have here. Luckily, we have a really, really good team. A couple of years ago, I was able to bring in a digital content manager. We have a digital asset manager as well. So those folks really helped out with kind of shoring up a lot of this great content. They do a phenomenal job. As far as everybody else throughout the organization, all that. Yeah, and I think you'll see that. I don't know if it's just necessarily manufacturing. Like I said, it's most people just doing something different, something new. I think like I said, the silver lining to the last year was that it kind of forced everybody to fully go the digital communications route, and those that were able to adapt really well to it and learn a lot of stuff from it, it's only going to help the ongoing efforts as, things, whatever, how they evolve, hopefully in a really positive way here. But it's just going to enhance those efforts too, having that experience on being solely focused digitally too in this last year. So, but it's always something, it's always a challenge, and, you're going to get your champions, the people who really want to push it, and some people that, and I think a big thing is people like to see other people succeed. So if somebody else is doing it, they'll try, but it's tough to get everybody to kind of just, jump in, and that's understandable.
You do any training for them, like on LinkedIn?
Oh yeah, we do quite a bit. We have our own internal training platform. We have quite a few courses on that.
Nice.
We have internal kind of communication platforms where we do different tips every week, and yeah, we do quite a bit of that stuff.
Here's with that training. Do you ever draw in your distributors or your reps to be part of that?
We do. We definitely mention a big part of, like I said, I'm not there to tell anybody else how to do it.
Sure.
How to do. Obviously, everybody has to run their business or their strategy their own way.
Mhm.
I do showcase in a very positive light what it's done for us and how they can interact with their customers as well.
Yeah.
To me, if you're a rep or a distributor regionally or locally at
Mhm.
some point, I think the social channels have phenomenal benefit to you. In a sense, what I always tell people, you should be, it's almost like if you're a realtor, these channels are made for you. You should know your
Yeah.
local marketplace in and out. You should know everything that's going on, all the conversations, all that stuff. So people who want to know anything about your region, your locality, anything
Yeah.
like that, they should reach out to you in a sense, and you should be that kind of resource in general. And I think that's where I think being local
Mhm.
is really great versus like a giant brand. I can't talk to somebody about stuff going on locally in Cincinnati all the time,
Yeah.
So
Right. All right. How about internationally? I mean, does that throw a different spin into any of the digital strategy that you have?
it does a little bit. Obviously, I mean the great thing is that a lot of English is a dominant language throughout the world. As we've seen a lot of our folks communicate. We do provide content in a few other languages, translated things like that. But like I said, a lot of times, for example, like LinkedIn, we have a strong encouragement from our international team to really make sure those folks take full advantage of those channels. Yeah.
Good.
Nice. That makes all the difference. So you guys are clearly adapting at the speed of culture, in my humble opinion. What's next? Anything brewing that you can talk about, or you guys just always on the lookout, always ideating?
It's like I said, I think what you'll find is I'm always interested to see how channels evolve, platforms evolve, things like that. I mean, we tried different things. Like I remember when Instagram came out, obviously that was a big thing, and it was all photos. If you guys remember that, it's all it was. And then all of a sudden they added video. It's like, oh, okay, you could add video, blah blah blah. And now, obviously, with the rise of TikTok, they've added reels and all this other kind of stuff. So, to me, I'm not so much fixated on the platform. Really, it's because who knows? In the next year, somebody is going to come out with some invention where they're all of a sudden going to say, billboards are all the rage. Everybody's driving around looking at billboards because they're doing X, and that's fine. That's cool. I have no problem with that. If that's the case, I'll be glad to look and see what how that impacts us. So at the end of it, if the messaging is there, you have to find a way to communicate to as many people again that you want to communicate with in all these channels. And I think we try a lot of things. For example, I mentioned one of the things that we still kind of try, like Snapchat. So Snapchat came up obviously a few years ago, and it's the exact kind of polar opposite the way I see in my head to TikTok. It's so much private, and it's all about kind of one-to-one type of thing. You're, as much as we tried that, it's still quite challenging for me to fully understand how it benefits us. Not that not that I've tried to crack this nut 100 different ways, but again, then you have this other platform where it went from all these quote unquote young kids trying to be on this private platform to now everyone wants to be a TikTok star to see as many people as see him. So the world's even kind of shifted into that thing if you look at it that way, right? We went from like this privacy thing to this mass thing. So again, it's just trying new things again, just to be open to different channels. But one thing is definitely creating more content. The one thing I always think about every day, I don't think I've ever sat around a week and said, oh man, we did way too much this week, or oh, it's always not enough. It's like, man, I should have spent less time on this thing and we should have done this other thing, because it's like it would have helped me a lot more. So that's the number one thing. If I would ask, or if I would advise somebody to just start is the number one thing, and just do as much of it as you can, because you're just going to learn so much by doing a lot of different things. So like I said, to us, I still think we're like at this level where we need to be with content. We should be like 10 times more, but we'll get there maybe.
Well, I think I get this question more than any other question, and I'm curious what your response would be. I'm imagining you've had to answer this question internally. So if senior leadership, like, okay, the main question I always hear is this: why are we doing all this? What's the ROI?
Right.
How can we directly correlate how much sales is growing from doing all this stuff? So what do you say to that?
Right. No, I mean, that's valid. You know, everybody has the right to say, to ask these questions. You know, it's like you're spending time, you're spending obviously effort and attention to these things. To me, the way I look at it, it's, you know, you have to compare it to other things. Like, what would you do otherwise? Again, not to say anything's better than anything else, but again, a magazine ad and a publication, is that a whole lot of time and effort spent that much better for this? I don't know. You know, like, to me, I think for us, what I found is that there's definitely the content we put out there resonates with people. It definitely has attention. And a lot of it, sometimes you have to just, if you're aware to the conversations around your brand, then you know the impact your content has had out there. Does that make sense? So again, we do quite a bit of, you know, the old standard stuff, whether it's your Google ads and everything else like that, everybody else does. Mm-hmm. But again, content is very valuable. It's a lot of it's evergreen. Like I mentioned, we have the quote unquote heavy content, the blogs, and we have this very, what I call light things that need to kind of coexist and go out there. But I think any company nowadays that doesn't take advantage of these tools is really, really missing out. So I don't know if that answers the question or not.
I think so. We unfortunately we're towards the end here. Ray, I know you. He's got at least 5 questions. Can you boil it down to one or two?
Just one. Just one. Looking at your background, Felix, what I found really fascinating was the diverse experience. You've got a ton of, you know, marketing and digital experience, but in such diverse industries. Right. And what's been going through my mind today is the intersection between kind of that core understanding of the purpose of marketing and what it's supposed to do, and what happens when it meets a new industry. Because you know, you've admitted you came out of quote unquote perhaps some boring industries, but you know, so I'm just curious about that. How much of it is core blocking and tackling? How much of it is tribal knowledge? You know, you're in there and you get the culture.
Yeah, well, definitely the culture you have to kind of learn over time. Obviously, with any company, you're at small, large, you name it. As far as when I first started here, I started as a product marketing manager. Mm-hmm. So I was responsible for a lot of different products, you know, the development, the marketing, and all that. So I think what that really helped me, as if I just came in as let's say a content or digital type person, because it really forced me to learn the products and learn how people in all these different industries utilize the products. And I think that really has helped cement the foundation. If you first understand what you're talking about, because I think it's a little bit challenging to bring somebody in just to do marketing without having full knowledge of what it is that they're talking about. Because again, like, I may know some things about marketing, but you really have to understand the product. And like I said, we have so many of them. So that's what really helped me fully kind of cement that. But I think in a sense, you know, having worked in all these different industries, the way I look at myself is I know it's going to take ramp up time to understand products and learn some of these things. But, you know, I think I'm confident enough to know that that's not really a stumbling block. And again, I think looking back at all these industries, if I was working in any of them right now, I don't think I'd be doing anything differently. I think the focus and the push would be the same.
Interesting. You engage with your customers.
Definitely
engage.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Oh man, we could talk to Felix a whole lot longer, and unfortunately, we got to wrap up. Felix, is there anything we didn't ask you, and I don't want to put you on the spot, anything we didn't ask you that you wanted to share or say to the audience about all this?
Again, to anybody who's kind of still on the fence, or to me, the point of marketing should be to push out there. So if you have marketing people that are on the fence themselves, I would definitely encourage them to be able to take a little bit of a risk sometimes to try things. But like I said, you're never going to get good at something unless you just stink at it first. So I don't know if that's encouraging to anybody, but it just is. Everybody will be good at it if they try something. Like whatever it is. I mean, I think everybody has something that they've done professionally, personally, that they need a lot of work. And actually, most things that you do, you look back on a lot of things, especially things that you did when you were younger. You're like, oh, I should have done this. I should have done. It's the same thing in this. But the great thing is, you could do it again now. You could do it again and do better, and you could constantly get better at it. So that's what we try to do all the time, And I think being in marketing, I love being in marketing. Be an accountant, you could be all these things. Accounting has some different tools, but the fundamental nature of it hasn't really changed since God knows when. So I mean, that's a great thing about marketing. It changes so much, and it's a lot of fun. It keeps you on your toes.
Well, and as
marketing, it's not accounting.
Right. And as Sully said in Monsters Inc., stink it up. So we're encouraging all of you listening, stink it up.
Stink it up.
That's it. You got to go through it.
That's right. Oh, funny.
I don't know why that came to me, but it cracks me up in my own head.
That's good. That's good.
Well, Felix, thank you so much for being here. You are a rock star, my friend. Keep rocking the TikTok like a boss. And if you listening are not already following Cambro, dear God, you have to on every platform, because they're doing an amazing job and leading the conversation.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you, guys. It was great being with you.
Well, hey, if you're not already subscribed to this podcast, what are you waiting for? Run and do it right now. And if you find value, please leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts to show other people this is something worth spending their time on. Courageous conversations happening every week in 30 minutes or less. So, Ray, would you please take us out, my friend?
I'd be delighted. Felix, again, thank you so much. My friend Allison, this was a blast as always. And to our fabulous listeners, keep manufacturing out loud, because we need you. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you for listening to MFG Out Loud with Ray Zaganto and Allison DeFore. You can subscribe and find show notes at mfgoutloud.com.